I think it's pretty safe to say that this is going to be the faces of the three women who are in the Marvels, and they're going to be looking at the reports about just how bad their movie is doing when it officially comes out. And the look of disappointment and shock in their face is probably going to be worse than what's exhibiting here in this picture. So we have an article here from Bounding Into Comics that says apparently Brie Larson's The Marvels. And I don't really think it's fair, first off, to call it Brie Larson's The Marvels because it is no longer Captain Marvel 2. It is simply The Marvels because Brie Larson can't carry a movie anymore. At least they don't deem her necessary or able to carry the movie, considering how she basically attacked everybody over the last few years. But that's not a here nor there. It says predicted to have one of the worst, if not the worst, box office grosses for the Marvel Cinematic Universe ever. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if that's going to be true because I think it will be carried slightly by the fact that it's going to have some sort of relevance in the overall grand scheme of the MCU. And for people who are still following the MCU and are excited for some reason about what's happening with the Kang and everything like that, like if you're excited about that, sure, I can see why you would want to see this movie. And there is people out there that are still going to be Marvel shills and they're going to watch any movie that has a Marvel label on it. They don't really care. But I don't think it's going to hit nowhere near as hard as the original Captain Marvel, because when that movie came out, you had everybody invested in the MCU, and if you missed the movie, you felt like you missed a lot, and nobody wanted to miss a movie. So even though it really was just a feminist, like girl boss kind of movie, people went and go see it anyway just to see its connection to the actual overarching Infinity War saga. You don't have that anymore. You don't have that big bad anymore to drive the movie. You don't have that overarching story that people are invested over years in. Nobody really cares anymore. So let's get into this article, guys, from Bounding Into Comics. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm Shadowban as hell, and like the video to push us out into the YouTube algorithm. It says new opening weekend box office projections have been revealed for Marvel Studios' upcoming The Marvels film, and it claims that the film would make less than box office loser Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and could claim the spot for not just the lowest opening weekend in Marvel Cinematic Universe history, but the lowest grossing MCU film overall. Box Office Pros share their projects for the Marvels, claiming that the film will only gross between 50 million and 75 million in its domestic opening weekend. They also predict it will bring in between 121 million and 189 million at the domestic box office overall. These predictions are far lower than their initial long-range predictions for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania early this year. They initially predicted the film would gross between 96 and 131 million in its opening weekend domestically and go on to earn between 249 and 347 million in its entire domestic run. Now, if you guys remember, the reports that were initially coming out about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania were pretty big. A lot of people, I think, were overcasting the idea that people were really invested in the Kang story. And unfortunately, there is a lot of different factors at play as to why people are just not that interested in Kang. Overall, right now, the way Marvel is selling Kang, they're not selling him as a big bad. They're also not selling him as a good villain overall. Nobody really cares about Kang like they did with the Infinity War saga and Thanos. Nobody really cares about Kang in the same manner. Not only that, you have the actual issues that are going on with Jonathan Majors and his real life debacle over the domestic abuse allegations, and that's going to cause problems, obviously. It's going to cause issues for Disney and Marvel. So there's a lot of things going against the overarching Kang story, but it does look like that Marvel is going to continue with Jonathan Majors as Kang. So it says Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania eventually had an opening weekend of 106.1 million and would go on to earn 214 million at the domestic box office for its entire theatrical run. Overall, the film grossed 463 million globally. Now, given Quantumania's estimated production budget of 200 million, the movie lost around $22 million. It's quite likely the Marvels will be even a bigger loser if even the highest projections are true. Forbes reported back in the middle of September that the film's production budget is $274 million. However, the report also notes that the film received a $55 million tax subsidy from the United Kingdom, bringing the net cost down to around $219 million. However, that was not the final report regarding the Marvel's production spend from the United Kingdom's government, and it also does not include post-production costs for the film. Thus, financial analyst Valiant Renegade predicted the production was likely around 300 million, if not slightly more. Even if you use Forbes' 219 million number, the film's break-even point is around $439 million, given the studio's split returns with theaters when it comes to box office grosses. However, if you use Valiant Renegade's $300 million number, the film needs to make around $750 million or more, and given the low box office predictions from Box Office Pro, it's quite likely the film would just be another loser at the box office for Walt Disney Company, Bob Iger, Marvel Studios, and Kevin Feige. Now again, a lot of people are going to point to the fact that Captain Marvel 1 was a billion-dollar film, but the thing is, Captain Marvel 1 wasn't a billion-dollar film because it was a good film. It wasn't a billion-dollar film because it was a female girl boss-led movie. It wasn't a billion-dollar film for any of those reasons. It was predominantly a billion-dollar film because it came out at the right time in the right place. It came out at a point in the story of the overarching MCU saga that it was huge, right? Like, everybody was super invested, like I said earlier in the video, in the MCU. There was no way that people were going to miss it. There was no way. I knew, for me, I wasn't going to miss it. I was heavily invested in the MCU during the first initial 10 years. There was no way in hell I was going to miss any Marvel movie because I wanted to know what was going to happen next. And you guys know, every single Marvel movie always has some sort of ending cutscene after the credits that give you a little sneak peek as to what's going to happen in the next movie. So I wanted to see what was going to happen, and I didn't want to miss it. And back then, they didn't really have the streaming services available that they have now. So a lot of people really aren't going to be rushing to the theaters to go see Captain Marvel 2, or what used to be Captain Marvel 2 that is now called The Marvels. Nobody's going to be running out to go get it. So I don't think this is going to do anywhere near the initial number. I think it's going to be drastic just how bad of a fall this movie is going to experience. And I really think that the sad thing is people are going to be shocked by it. People are going to look at the numbers and say, wow, I can't believe that this movie fell off like that. But you don't realize timing and place is everything. It is everything, especially timing when it comes to movies. It is everything, especially when you're trying to tell an overarching story, a cinematic universe. Yeah, it's pretty big in the success of your movies. This is why Wakanda Forever didn't do as good. This is why The Marvels is not going to do as good. This is why all of these movies have not been doing nowhere near as good, because people are checked out. Yes, there are still people heavily invested in the MCU. Yes, there are still people that are going to be big time shills for Marvel and Disney. That is absolutely true, and I'll never take that away. But to ignore the fact that there is this many people that are checking out of the product, there is this many people saying, you know what? MCU is not for me. Disney Marvel's not for me. There is so many people checking out who used to be invested, and the fact that everybody's trying to pretend as if it's not happening is insane. You're going to have all of these shills try to pretend like, oh, no, it's still making millions, thus it's successful. That's such BS, and they know it, but they're trying to sell this narrative as if that's not the case. So the Marvels, I do think, is going to be a massive failure. I don't know if it's going to be the lowest grossing film of all time for the MCU. I think that's taking it pretty far. Would I be shocked if it was? No, but I do think it's taking it pretty far. But I do think it's going to be quite a bomb for Disney. How big of a bomb? I guess we're going to have to find out. But ultimately, I don't have much faith in this movie, nor should anyone else, considering the cast and just where the story is actually going. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.